Made a wrong turn once or twice, dug my way out, blood and fire, bad decisions, that's alright. Welcome to my silly life. Mistreated, misplaced, misunderstood, misknowing it's all good. It didn't slow me down. Mistaken, always second guessing, underestimated. Look, I'm still around. Pretty, pretty place. Don't you ever feel like you're less than perfect? Pretty, pretty place. If you ever feel like you're nothing, you are perfect to me. You're so mean when you talk about yourself. You were wrong. Change the voices in your head. Keep them like you instead. So complicated. Look how we will make it. Filled with so much hatred. Such a tired day. It's enough, I've done all I can think of. Chased down all my demons. I've seen you do the same. Oh, pretty, pretty place. Don't you ever feel like you're less than perfect? Pretty, pretty place. If you ever feel like you're nothing, you are perfect to me. Whole world's scared, so I swallowed down. Only thing I drinking is a nice cold beer. So cool in line, and I tried. But we tried too hard, it's a waste of my time. Looking at the critics, cause they're everywhere. They don't like my jeans, they don't get my hair. Exchange ourselves, we do it all the time. Why do we do that? Why do I do that? Why do I do that?
Good morning. I am Lisa Larson, your Board of Trustees President and the board representative for this service today. I'd like to highlight a few special announcements found in your latest e-news, which was sent out Thursday. The board will be having a special meeting tonight at 7 p.m. over Zoom, looking at the ROC 19 Task Force recommendations to determine the status of in-person services. A Zoom link has been sent out if you would like to Zoom in to watch and listen. There is no public comment at this special meeting. Regarding the ministerial transition listening sessions, the response has been tremendous, and we have added more. Register using links from the e-news. I am so excited to give you details about Reverend Suzelle's farewell events. These are the highlights, and links and details can be found in the e-news. On January 22nd, from 12:30 to 1 p.m., come for the drive-through goodbye in UUCW's East parking lot. From 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, come for the in-person bonfire in our UUCW backyard. At 6 p.m., join us virtually on Zoom for a live and video celebration of Reverend Suzelle's love, support, and commitment to UUCW. A Zoom link for this will be emailed to everyone. Mail a love note to Suzelle, to UUCW, and or post a digital photo and love note. Again, details about all of these events are in this week's e-news. Suzelle's final sermon will be with us, will be online Sunday, January 30th at 10 a.m. This ends the announcements. Blessings to you all.
I am Eddie Daniel, and the pronouns I use are he and his. I am pleased to be your worship assistant today with Reverend Denise Cawley. We recognize Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday weekend and holiday. We know that the authors and theologians that we quote from all contributed to the beloved community that Dr. King dreamed. In fact, the welcome that we offer here at UUCW is inspired by the dream that he described of what the beloved community might look like. As we continue to work together to build and support the beloved community, we want to welcome everyone watching. Whoever you are, from wherever you come, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, however you define family, you are welcome. The identities you hold, how you want to be called, and the pronouns you choose are respected and welcome here. Whatever the color of your skin, the language your grandparents spoke, the cultures that move in your being, the abilities and disabilities that you hold, we welcome you. Whatever you believe, whatever your theology, prayer, or sacrament, even if none at all, we welcome you. We unite in Unitarian Universalist principles. We are a community of communities, spiritual seekers acting out our faith's calls for justice, united in covenant and the spirit of love. We welcome all of your bodies, all of your wounds, all of you. Welcome to our service of love.
Break
lighting, we share the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Please kindle your chalice at home and read along. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light
Can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
Good morning. I'm Dave. Good morning. I'm Dave Cicero, Director of Lifespan and Religious Education. And my pronouns are he and his. Dr. King spoke often of his hope that one day all will be judged by their character and not by their appearance. But it's common to have beliefs about others without really knowing them. It's not right, but it's common. We're sharing a story today with the main character, Mabel, who is self-conscious about her own appearance and who also makes some assumptions, conclusions, or beliefs about others without really knowing them. Let's see if she and a new friend, also a bit different, can help each other be more accepting. So the book I'm reading is called Mabel, A Mermaid Fable, written and illustrated by Rowboat Watkins. I'm reading it with permission of Chronicle Books, and it's available for purchase wherever books are sold, places like Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and locally Boswell Book Company in Milwaukee especially. What was weird about Mabel wasn't her mustache. Her dad had a mustache. Her mom had a mustache. Her big sisters had matching mustaches. Even her baby brother had a tiny baby mustache. What was weird about Mabel was that she had no mustache at all. Mabel tried hiding her nose behind jaunty shells and by wearing seaweed falsies. But this only made her feel like a clown. Oh. Did you see that? Mabel had no idea what a nudibranch was, but if she was one, the only thing to do was to hide. So she frittered away, who knows how long, hiding in holes, until Mabel realized that she was not alone. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm Lucky," said the giant eye. "Who are you?" "I'm Mabel." Why are you here?" Mabel asked. "Because I only have 7 legs." "Well, that sure sounds like a lot of legs." "Well, I'm supposed to have 8, said Lucky. What can you do with 8 legs that you can't do with 7? Mabel asked. "Count to 8, said Lucky. "Oh, I could teach you to count to 8, said Mabel. Mabel actually helped Lucky count all the way to 88. And Lucky sort of taught Mabel how to juggle
Then they pretended to be king and queen of the corals. Look at them go. Doesn't matter at all whether they have a mustache, does it? Or how many legs they have to be able to play together. Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry, said Lucky. I leak when I'm scared. That's okay, said Mabel. But what's a nudibranch? Oh, nudibranchs are sea slugs, said Lucky. Oh, said Mabel, that's why they're so awful. Oh, they aren't awful, silly, said Lucky. Nudibranchs are amazing. By the way, nudibranchs are pretty amazing. And that's the actual name of some real sea creatures. So you might want to look them up sometime to learn more about them yourself. Suddenly, Mabel realized that everything she ever really needed was already right under her nose. Is there anything that you wonder after hearing this story? It sure was a silly one. Mermaids and mustaches and nudibranchs. But I wonder if we could call Lucky a septopus with 7 legs, right? Unless, of course, they still identify as an octopus, in which case we'd be right to call them that. And it would take a conversation with Lucky to really know for sure, wouldn't it? Now, Lucky helped Mabel understand that just because someone is new or different doesn't mean we should think of them as weird or bad. In fact, each of us is certainly different in some way or another than everybody else in the world. And if we avoid others who are just different from us, imagine how much we'd miss out on. Now, I kind of wonder what it was that helped Mabel understand this. Maybe it was seeing all the different types of nudibranchs there are in the sea and seeing how unique and beautiful each of them are. And that is one of the UU principles I'll be thinking about today, that each and every person is important. So whatever each of us is or has as part of our body, that is something to be honored and valued, not something to be embarrassed about or to hide. So now I think I'll join some friends in a proud and outward but underwater display of our special traits.
I am the Reverend Denise Cawley, and the pronouns I use are she and her. And I'm one of the co-ministers here for the next 2 weeks until our beloved Reverend Suzelle retires. And then it'll be just me until you and the board figure out what comes next in the transitions. But I am so excited to be working with you more. If you are a visitor here or haven't heard from us in a while after checking your spam folders, or even if you just have a question, please pop us an email and tell us a bit about you and what you're seeking here. And if you could include your contact information, you'd make it a lot easier for us to continue to get back to you. We would love to hear what you are seeking. Please email us at visitor@uucw.org. Again, that's visitor@uucw.org. Well, goodness, thank you for all the beautiful music in this service. Our band Kaleidoscope and our fabulous music director, Ruben, and all of the singers and musicians have worked on these selections for today's service for months. And additionally, there was a lot of extra hours put into all the editing. It's phenomenally time-consuming, and so please thank all the people that help with that. And if you don't know, inquire, because we are so very lucky. Thank you, Dave, for helping me with the special mermaid and octopus, as well as Kelly and all of you willing to be in our slideshow. So many hands put our services together. And let me know if you would like greater connection in this community, because I have roles for you. And it's truly when you join smaller committees and groups that you get to know people's hearts and they get to know yours. I'd like to hold a moment of silence for those who were taken hostage yesterday at the Reformed Synagogue in Texas. I want to hold that the Jewish people in our congregation are very likely scared. I'm sure we are all grateful that the hostages have been released, but incidents like this add to our fear in the world, and frankly, no one deserves that. No one. So if you know someone Jewish, be sure to send them a text or a call or a card today. They might need a bit more love. So please pour forth your spirit on the synagogue of Colleyville, Texas, and may they be lifted up beyond violence, fear, and terror. Please join me in a moment of silence as we send them ease and love. Thank you. Today, I bring you some words honoring goddesses that I believe are in all of us, regardless of our gender. This poem comes from a minister familiar to many of us as she has preached here several times, the Reverend Misha Sanders. So please take a few breaths so that you are comfortable. And let these words sink in. You might want to rest your eyes a bit. This piece, this meditation today is called Goddess. In a sacred place of honor, in the temple that is my home, stands a gleaming, powerful image of the Venus of Willendorf. Proud and naked, her unbound breasts resting on her fully rotund body, blissful and heavy with the ripeness that is all of life, and the sweet milk that sustains it. having no apologies to make for the full fatness of her thighs, grown strong and proud from carrying of this wide expanse of hips, and a rump with the roundness of which has enchanted poets and priests since before time. The wise goddess child who is my daughter calls this image the mommy doll. And she has no interest in the notion that maybe this lush feminine form was not fashioned to look like me. How then can I face this child and not stand tall? Be a goddess in whatever size I am content. I do not need minimizing panels in my panties and wires in my bra to be divine and full of beauty. Not starving. Not starving for affection, approval, appreciation, confirmation, conformity, or anonymity, but fully at home in the body of this woman who takes up her share of space without saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," and still leaves enough room in the world for you. So to you and to me and to the wise goddess child who is my daughter, I say, fearlessly and wondrously are we made in the image of she who is most holy, and the blasphemy of the body hatred that has no place in this temple.
Today's reading is excerpted from an interview with Sonia Renee Taylor, who is the author of the book, The Body is Not an Apology. This conversation was broadcast when Brene Brown interviewed Taylor in Brown's podcast, Unlocking Us. The work of self-love, radical self-love, is to keep moving the things that are in the way outside of me, and to keep working in concert with other human beings to move the things that are in the way in the world. And that when we do those two things simultaneously, when we do them together, I believe, and I may not ever live to see it, but I deeply believe that we make a different world. Radical self-love is an internal journey that impacts our external reality. It's inside of you, and it impacts the world. And the reason it impacts the world is because we are not living in a system of individualization, of individualism. No matter how much our society would like to convince us that we are, the reality is that we are independent, that our experiences impact one another. You know when you've been in a conversation with someone and you leave it and you feel gross? Like, ew, that did not feel good. That is the impact of their internal story impacting you. And it can impact your whole day. It can change the entire tapestry of the way you were moving throughout the day. So that's just the energetic level. But the systemic and structural level is that we have built a world that is a reflection of our belief that we are not enough. We have built an entire system that then externalizes our value. In my world, I will be good enough when I achieve ... I will be good enough if I have this job that pays me this amount of money. I will be good enough if I can hold tight to my identity as white, as able-bodied, as cis, or all of those configurations of what I call the hierarchy of bodies. The world that we have assigned that says there is some top. And my job as a human is to figure out how to scramble to the top, how to try to get there. Now, what's true is that we also recognize in this system that there are some of us who will never get there. We have bodies that will never live at the top of the ladder. So what we spend our lives trying to do is to figure out, what can I do? Well, I can lose 10 pounds. I can affect my tone so that I sound more white. There are all these things that you can try to do. I can subscribe to rigid rules around gender. And I can do all of these things to try to understand my place in the hierarchy. There is a hierarchy of bodies and their value, humans and their value. To climb up the ladder of bodily hierarchy, what radical self-love invites us to do is to divest from the ladder, to recognize that the ladder is only real because we keep trying to climb it, all of us collectively. What is radical self-love? Radical self-love invites us to divest in the ladder because the ladder is only real because we keep trying to climb it. And when we stop trying to climb the ladder, then we have no more use for it. When I don't need the ladder to assess my sense of worthiness, of enoughness, of, again, inherent divinity, then I don't need that ladder because I understand it is my birthright. I understand it is as how I arrived on the planet. I understand it as my own unique form of natural intelligence. Then the ladder is no use. The ladder is imaginary. The ladder is there to give me a thing that I was born with. So what do I need the ladder for? What do I need the ladder for if we all understood that we already came here with everything we need in order to be all that it is that we are destined to be?
Every day is so wonderful, then suddenly
and have watched me, the idea of me sitting in one place to preach is pretty hilarious, right? So I was chair dancing earlier. The name that escaped me earlier was Haley German Fisher, does lots of our editing for music, and there are other congregations that are having to pay thousands of dollars for that kind of work. And Kelly Bogner has put in a great deal of extra time. All the staff have. We are so blessed here. Before I get into the sermon, I want to say that planning this sermon did not go as I envisioned. I started talking to the band back in October. I started studying this material over a year ago. I read and prepare for a lot of sermons at once, doing a lot of study. And so when I started preparing, I did not imagine that I would be giving this when a long-term minister was leaving the congregation in 2 weeks. That the worship service would go from being scheduled right after New Year's Day to MLK's birthday weekend, and that I would be giving the sermon during a pandemic at a congregation where I have not met a number of the involved and dedicated people yet. And if I have, it's only been like this with hats and, all kinds of stuff on and a mask. Nor that our contact would again be limited, keeping us from looking at each other's eyes, because today the only people in the sanctuary are the ones helping with the service. And I really, sincerely want to spend a lot of time getting to know all of you. I find I fall in love with this congregation more each day. You are smart, you are dedicated, and you are funny. You are caring and witty. You are well-read, deeply committed to one another and to the larger progressive justice movement. And that is how I know you care about this topic, even if it's new to you. And while sermonating on body positivity is more complicated than I imagined, it is a taste today of where I hope we can go together, bravely looking at new ideas, sharing hurts in community, and healing one another. I am so excited to be sharing this journey with you. The body is not an apology. January is inundated by diet and exercise ads. Regardless of your health or your scars or your abilities or disabilities or the color of your skin or anything else, you are beautiful. You have value regardless of your size. Your body, regardless of if you love every part of it, is valuable and beautiful. Full stop. If you are skinny or fat, a pear or an apple, a peach or an eggplant, if you have had surgery and have scars, if you run or swim 3 times a week, if exercising for you involves wheeling across a room to get yourself washed up, if using a walker or a cane to cross a space safely, if you had your breasts or organs removed to save your life, if you had your prostate operated on so that we can still enjoy your company, if you had your body maimed in an accident, or if you were born that way, or if your doctor has told you you need to eat less salt or lose weight to be healthy, or if you are considered obese on those charts that the life insurance company uses, if you have replacement parts in your body, if you are poor or comfortable, white or mixed race, brown, black, indigenous, if you are queer or straight, tattooed, or if your skin is ashy or soft, you are valued. Now you might be thinking, Rev D, that's nice, but I don't feel that way. Everything I'm telling you today, I need to hear as much as you. I know that I am loved and valued at every size, with every scar my body presents with, and yet, each and every day, there are still moments where I feel unsure, worried, or less than. I admit to you, I often whisper self-deprecating messages into my heart that do not reflect what my well-trained mind and I know to be a bunch of malarkey. And I bet I'm not alone. Because we, as Unitarian Universalists and people exploring it, we are people who love the environment. We love organic farming and food justice. We love great education, free elections. We are very, very, very concerned about fair district lines, reproductive justice, clean water, great education opportunities for everyone, superior arts, music, dance, painting, crafting, all the things. We want that available for everyone. We are awfully cool people. And we also know that these issues are all very complex and interconnected. The dichotomies of binary thinking gets us really into trouble on these topics, as much as it does how we look at bodies. Young, old, fat, thin, healthy, sick, tall, short. We can connect the dots that to each of these issues and so many more, we know they are not stand-alone topics to address one by one, but interrelated, interconnected systems. And they are systems of justice and injustice. All the big justice organizations that I know of, and even many of the small ones, have gone from talking about their issue as a single column, as a single issue, from Planned Parenthood to the Human Rights Campaign to Amnesty International, NPR, the Hunger Task Force, and many others. They all link these issues together. That is where social justice has moved. And so rather than continuing to look at them as standalones, I'm inviting you to look look at the complexity with me, with one another. Racism isn't a meal served alone, but it comes with less access to health care and education. The environment isn't an issue one club or one group can address without partnering with others working on similar issues of education and race and corporate greed. Each of these are on the same ladder of inequity that Sonia Renee Taylor talked about in our reading this morning. Valuing bodies, putting them on this ladder, we have a hierarchy that we need to recognize is as interconnected to the body as it is to all the issues I just mentioned. Did any of us come up with the idea that beauty means having scars on our own, not having scars? No, it was a concept sold to us to sell us another cream, to shame us into buying another outfit, to convince us to go to another stretching exercise, something or another to fix us. Today, I am sitting in front of you with my foot up because I cannot stand, even with my knee scooter. I just had 4 bolts added and the largest tendon in my body removed and reattached after sanding down a bone deformity the size of a lip gloss container. I do not feel as valued, smart, or pretty in this state. I need this sermon as much as you. I know access to health care is not something all of us or even I have always had. And yet, I cut myself no slack. How kind is that? It sure doesn't go with my UU values. And I know it, but I swim in this culture that says that all makes me have less worth. And so do you. My intellect is aware that in the hierarchy of bodies, in the ladder, slender and fit, muscular and young, light-skinned folks are at the top, and yet there are very skinny people amongst us who maybe fit all those definitions and do not have all their health. And there are also people of size, people who identify as fat, who have great blood sugar and an amazing heart and all these things. It isn't a ladder. It's a complex system. I, like you, could apologize up here for not having access to the perfect childhood or being exposed to trauma. Or I, and even you, could talk about real issues about not having enough time, or maybe we didn't have enough skill to eat this way or that, or to exercise as well as someone else. We could all start comparing. And let me tell you, no one leaves that conversation feeling good. We feel the ick if we try to compare wounds in a hierarchy, as opposed to saying, I'm really sorry. I am really sorry if that is part of your story. Thank you for sharing it with me. I could apologize for my body being too fat. I could apologize for my weight fluctuating a lot in the pandemic. I could draw you a map of scars on my body to explain why I can and cannot wear this or that, or how I didn't win the genetics lottery, and so could you. In every one of these explanations and apologies, I would write shame on my skin into my cells like a permanent tattoo that I would pass on to my child, and you would pass on to your families and your friends. Your body is not an apology, and neither is mine. Likewise, pain and shame are not a contest. We are all holders of pain and shame in our bodies. And we are here, we come to communities like this to heal one another. Social researcher and expert on vulnerability and shame, Brené Brown, says, if we can share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive. You may have heard Marianne Williamson, the New Age author and expert on the Course in Miracles, speak about the nature of an acorn. An acorn does not have to say, I intend to become an oak tree. Natural intelligence intends that every living thing become the highest form of itself, and it designs all of us accordingly. Your value is like an acorn. You are here on this planet at this time to become whatever your acorn is to become. You are to become oak trees of whatever sort. The acorn doesn't say, I can only be a tree if I'm perfectly formed. It just keeps going. Somehow it tries to become an oak tree. It doesn't say, when I am skinny, I can be a tree, or when I am healthy, I can be a tree. It doesn't say, only if I am unmarked and a perfectly formed acorn can I become an oak tree. No, no, no. The acorn has a destiny to become a tree. And we, like acorns, are trying to become oak trees, Williamson says. We all contain what we need at this moment to become the exact oak tree we are meant to become. Our natural intelligence intends every living thing to become the highest form of itself. Each and every one of us are designed for that end, which means there is nothing wrong with you. Right now, the shame or fear you may hold about wanting to be something else is not in line with natural intelligence. Sonia Renee Taylor, who wrote the book by the matching title of this sermon, and all of the media and support that she has, I urge you to go check it out, listen to her, watch her, look at the workbook that she has. We heard her quoted in the earlier reading saying, "We belabor ourselves with all the things we must do to fulfill and live out our destiny." Each of us has traversed a gauntlet of traumas and shames and fears to be where we are today, wherever that is. Each day we wake to a planet full of social, political, and economic obstructions that siphon our energy and diminish our sense of self, says Taylor. Taylor calls herself an evangelist of self-love and speaking true in a way that resonates with me, and I recognize that her goal as a Black queer activist and author is one that would not have been able to happen without the work of Martin Luther King Jr., of Howard Thurman, of James Baldwin, of Pauli Murray, of Octavia Butler, and Oprah Winfrey that all came before her. Yes, there is a hierarchy of bodies in this world. Recognize it. And know that it as well doesn't have to be that way. Study after study proves that those with more Anglo-Saxon looks, lighter skin, straighter hair, slender bodies, lacking any scars, age, wrinkles, free of diseases or disabilities and without blemishes are at the top of some kind of cruel, youth-worshiping, skinny-awarding, white-loving, grotesque hierarchy that pretty much leaves every one of us out of the line to be picked as valuable. If you are fat, you might not get a raise. If you have a birthmark that's highly visible, you might not get picked for dodgeball or have anyone to sit by at recess. If you have to buy a bigger size, you will be shamed by traveling to different stores or not even being able to shop in stores and only shopping online and paying more for those clothes. The bottom line is that with all of the ways you have been hurt with words or illnesses or ancestry or scars or size comparisons, you may have felt hurt and shame. And I am here to tell you, your body is not an apology. You do not need to apologize for needing to drive to an event to be more comfortable in your car. You do not need to be punished by not getting the job you are better qualified for because you have more wrinkles. You do not deserve to worry about your children going outside because their skin is darker. While we are ending the apologies, let's stop equating health with size and color of bodies, because bodies are lovable and worthy and wonderful in all the forms. The work I am calling on all of us to do, all of us, is to see that these hierarchies of bodies is not only something to fight, but to ask ourselves, what if we realize the ladder we are on puts some on top and others on the bottom? And once we see the ladder and notice the way certain bodies are placed, we cannot unsee the ladder. And you may ask, okay, thanks Rev D, I get it. Don't use the ladder. The ladder of hierarchy leads to shame, but OMG, that is hard. It is really hard work. What can I even do in pandemic, Rev D? We are stuck inside again and limiting ourselves in this time that so much is changing, and I'm inside. If you want to get right off of the ladder of body hierarchy, of people hierarchy, just consider. I've got a range of things to consider that you could do or not do. Do not comment or compliment or suggest things about bodies or children's bodies. Just don't. You may tell me my hair is on point, my tie or my scarf is fabulous, my stole is so interesting, and my shoes are fun. You can compliment accessories. If you have people over who are fat, show them the most sturdy chair and don't make them ask. Just say, you might really feel comfortable in this chair. If setting up for a meeting, leave plenty of space for people of all sorts of sizes to sit comfortably with dignity. One of my friends said, please don't leave me with Tyrannosaurus arms at the meeting because I'm stuffed in. Understand that the diet industry is an industry. It aims to make money through shame. Fat shaming is a culture that permeates our brains. There is a conflation of health and size and capitalism and corporate greed that's getting you to feel shame. And that shame is toxic. And spilling this toxic soup means reevaluating yourself and one another. And I think of this like our meditation as part of a goddess-loving culture, that regardless of gender, identity, or size, or expression, you are loved. The great mother of all loves you. Another tip is my body and that of your loved ones' bodies is not your problem to solve. Neither are my habits or diet. None of us are here to project that we need fixing. And if you volunteer to fix me without me asking you for help with that first, you will be perceived as negative, and you may make others dread your presence because it amplifies their own shame, my shame, or my negativity. And no one wants that. You don't want that, and I don't want that. Okay, here's a crazy idea. Food is morally neutral. Consider that food is not good or bad. You are not evil for eating dessert, and you are not better than me because you like more kale than I do. Food could be morally neutral. And I want to point out for anyone with a masculine identity in the room, the larger world, All of these tips are for all genders. My friend Reverend Molly Brewer says gender and fatness intersect in a way that is really complex. Fat women and femmies are often put upon to perform femininity in a really elaborate way in order to be taken seriously as human beings in a way that fat men and masculine folks aren't expected to perform masculinity. And fat people of all genders are simultaneously hypersexualized and desexualized, as well as degendered in the public eye. And that's before we even touch the fat hatred within the gay male community, which is particularly prevalent among white men, but it is huge. The short version is that people other than cisgender women, that means women born with the identity that they were assigned at birth, all the rest probably get left out of the mainstream body positive discourse. And I want to say that's not fair. So when it's framed, Reverend Molly says, not necessarily by you or by the world, but by anyone, that problem mostly affects women, which is absolutely how many newcomers to body positivity think of it, missing a lot of the important nuance that this is for everyone. Tip number 8, because I love top 10 lists. Don't make fun of people for their size, their scars, their age, or ability, or anything related to looks. Now, you might say, come on, that's self-evident. I know that. I learned that. But think about how the media often slips this into us by hating on Chris Christie, for example, by rather than being mad that he cut off a road that prevented people from safely getting places, but rather make fun of him for being fat. If you're going to make fun of people for what they did that wasn't fair. Okay, that was really. But really, think about that. It's fair to say I'm mad because he cut off a road. And that's just one example of millions. But it's not fair to say I'm making fun of him because he's fat. Consider how to be kind and loving and how to be polite to people of size are two different things. And the tips I'm giving you are on both levels. One is just being polite, how not to get in trouble. And the other is about being loving. So being willing to change and coming to a caring understanding is very different than how to not get in trouble for saying the wrong thing. And the real goal here, as your minister, I have to tell you, is to be loving Unitarian Universalists living out our values. The kind and loving thing would be all bodies are good bodies. I have to tell you one of my favorite quotes from the movie Dumplin' is that everybody is a swimsuit body when it has a swimsuit on. So let's make heart space and logistical space for all bodies and all shapes and all abilities so that we can have all of one another's gifts. Don't we want to get to the gifts and the personalities and the knowing people? Because all these other things keep us from getting to the heart of the oak tree. And number 10, liberation is a fight that goes hand in hand with one another, hand in hand with intersectional experiences. It is the struggle for all to get out from under the boots of oppression. You always hear that, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. The bootstraps have oppression. Get out from under them and help someone else. If we see that body image and size and type and color and ability are more tied to injustice than the shame we are putting on one another. Participating in using the latter is a barrier to equality, to equity, and to love. Our work, as Taylor describes, is to crumble the barriers of injustice and shame leveled against us so that we might access what we have always been. Because if we will, if unobstructed, inevitably we grow into the purpose for which we were created, our own unique version of the oak tree. Don't think I don't hear some of you saying, I am so tired about talking about anti-racism. I'm sick of hearing about all these genders, blah, 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 blah. I know. Because it's exhausting to live in this shame and inequity. It's exhausting. And what you are going to hear from me time and time again is that every single issue we are called to act on as a faith is interlinked. Hating fat bodies is linked to anti-Semitic thoughts and to a place where we are not with Black Lives Matter. Valuing skinny comes from a ladder that was put in place to say that white skinny bodies were on top right now. And yes, there have been times in history when that was not the case. But right now, the moment we say the kind of person or body or issue is more valuable than one another, then we are using the ladder. We all want health. We all want our bodies to work in a way that allows us to become the kind of oak tree we are meant to be. And so if we want peace, we all talk about that. We want peace. We all put doves on things carrying, the branch, right? If we want peace at all, we have to make peace with bodies and ultimately change the world. Taylor describes it. Mabel the mermaid describes it. She and Lucky learned that having a mustache or a certain number of arms is not what matters. To truly participate in love to the core, and that's what radical means. Do you know that? It means to the core. Is to realize that you are great right now. Taylor reminds us the voice of doubt, shame, and guilt blaring in our heads is not our voice. It is a voice we have been given by society that steeps us in shame. It is the outside voice. Our authentic voice, our inside voice, is the voice of radical love. Isn't it time you used your authentic voice to say, my body and my being and your body and your whole entire being is wonderful, fabulous, and steeped in love, beauty, and wisdom?
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone
UU Church West's Split the Plate program is one of outreach and generosity. Each month, we give half of all undesignated offerings to a nonprofit organization to help us live our Unitarian Universalist values and to serve our community. Our Split the Plate partner for January is the Islamic Society of America, or ISM. The ISM is the largest Islamic organization in the state of Wisconsin and has been in operation for over 40 years. It serves approximately 15,000 Muslims residing in southeast Wisconsin. Of course, we all know about the Afghan refugees who arrived at Fort McCoy, many of them carrying little or nothing with them. Our donation to the ISM will be used specifically to purchase items which are needed by the estimated 400 Afghan refugees being resettled in Milwaukee. Items such as winter coats and boots and clothing for men, women, and children. To support the Islamic Society of Milwaukee, anytime this month, go to UUCW website's Donate tab and select Split the Plate from the menu provided, or you can text or mail your donation today using the information found here. Today, I thank you for your generosity to the Islamic Society of Milwaukee.
Figuring out where we are in a global pandemic is beyond hard. And my heart breaks for those of you trying to figure out childcare and work when we are all trying not to catch the plague. When we so miss being all together. I invite you to take the opportunities to be together online, to contact one another. Be gentle with one another. Be gentle with your own body. One thing we can do is surround ourselves with love and appreciation for one another. Do something kind for you and your body today. Send people a few thank yous or text messages. You're welcome to text or email me too and let me know how you're doing. rev.cawley@uucw.org. You can look it up on the website. I send you so much grace and kindness. Our benediction today is excerpted from one of the people who taught Martin Luther King Jr. a lot. In fact, many of the ideas we attribute to Dr. Martin Luther King came from Howard Thurman, who's one of my heroes. If you are not familiar with Howard Thurman, I urge you to check out the PBS documentary on him or any of his 20 or more books that he wrote. I encourage you to get familiar with him. And this is excerpted from his piece called The Mood of Christmas, which I know has just passed, but I really think it applies here. It starts, I will light candles this year. Perhaps. We lit the other ones earlier. I will light candles this year. Candles of joy despite all the sadness. Candles of hope where despair keeps watch. Candles of courage for fears ever present. Candles of peace for tempest-tossed days. Candles of grace for ease of heavy burdens. Candles of love to inspire all my living. Candles that will burn all year long.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
That's good. That's stupid.